Today's notes are over point-slope formula. So we have been working with several different types of linear equations, and today we are working on our last one. So far you are supposed to know slope-intercept form, and you're also supposed to know standard form. So today we're going to learn point-slope formula. So you're going to use the point-slope formula when you're writing the equation of a line given a point, which we're going to call x1, y1, and you're given the slope of a line, which remember that's m. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is go over the formula with you. So in the formula, you're going to have y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? So when you look at your equation, what you should notice is that there are several parts here. Okay? So we've got what looks like two y's, but we really don't. Okay? So this formula is actually on your EOC formula chart, so you don't necessarily have to have it memorized. However, you do need to know what each of the parts stand for. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? So right now that formula may look a little bit crazy. It's a little scary because there's a lot of parts, but I'm going to show you how to use it, and we're going to practice in class together. We're going to spend a couple of days on this to make sure you're ready. So let's go ahead and move on to the examples. So if you look at the directions, it says find the equation of the line given the point and slope. So if you see right away that you have a point and slope, you know you're going to use point-slope formula. Okay, so it's in the name. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remember the point that they gave me. Remember, that's going to be your x1, y1. Okay? And then they gave me my slope, which remember your slope is m in your equation. So here we go. We have y minus, and in this case my y1 was 1, and that equals my slope, which is 2 in this equation, times x minus, and then my x1 in this case was 4. Okay, so all I've done is taking the information they gave me and I'm substituting the point in and the slope in. The x and the y, just like in our other forms of a linear equation, are going to remain variables. Okay, so that's your first step. So substitute your values in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that we put this in slope-intercept form. So then we're going to write in slope-intercept. So remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we want to go ahead and get y alone. So this is similar to solving an equation. So the first thing that we want to do is distribute our 2. So that's going to give me y minus 1 equals 2x minus 8. Remember, when you distribute, you're multiplying. So 2 times x was 2x, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Now y still isn't alone, so the opposite of subtracting 1 is to add 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. That will make those cancel out. And I need to bring down my y, bring down my 2x, and then negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. So now I have an equation written in slope-intercept form, which we've learned is fairly easy to use if we're graphing. So in this case, your 2 would represent your slope, and your y-intercept, or b, is negative 7. Okay. So that is your first example with point-slope form. That was a lot of information. I'm going to go ahead and do another example with you. So I'm looking at number 2. Now notice on number 2 we have something that's different here. Notice m, or my slope, is a half. So we have a fraction. Don't be afraid of fractions. Fractions are your friends. We can deal with this. So step 1, I'm going to go ahead and label my point. I have my x1, y1, and I have slope, which is m. Now I'm going to substitute those values into my equation. So y minus my y1 is 4 equals your slope, which in this case is a half, times x minus, and in this case my x1 was 2. Okay, so once again, all I'm doing is taking the formula. I put my x1 in for x1, my y1 in for y1, and my slope in for m. Okay, now I'm going to solve the equation for y because I want to put it in slope-intercept form. So once again, step 1 is to distribute. So y minus 4 equals, what is half times x? That would equal half x. What is a half times negative 2? Half times negative 2, and if you don't know, remember you could always use your calculator, is going to be negative 1. Okay, now I need to get y alone. So the opposite of subtracting 4 is adding 4. And notice I'm adding 4 to the number that doesn't have the variable. So I bring down my y, bring down my half x, and then negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. Now I have my equation written in slope-intercept form. If I needed to, I could identify my slope, or m, which is a half, and my y-intercept, or b, which is 3. Alright, so I've done 2 examples. I've shown my work on them. What I would like for you to do now is I want you to pause the video and I want you to work number 3 and number 4 on your own. Then you can restart the video and check your work with mine. Okay, so these problems were similar yet a little bit different because now notice in my point I have some negative values. So we need to look at how those affect my equation. So notice I started out the same way. I went ahead and labeled x1 and y1, and then I have my slope of 2/3. I went ahead and wrote the equation up here for you guys just in case you needed it. So remember, my formula doesn't change. It's still y minus. So I have y minus, and then y1 in this case was 0, equals your slope, which was 2/3, times x minus. Now this is where it's different. Since x1 was negative 6, we don't write minus negative 6. Okay, if you think about that, it would have been minus 6. Well, isn't a minus minus? That makes positive 6. So that's why, if you notice, I wrote this in 2 different colors. I wrote x minus, and then since it was negative 6, it became plus 6. So that's why in the equation it's x plus 6 this time. Then from there it's exactly the same. So step 1, I'm going to distribute my 2/3. So 2/3 times x became 2/3 x. 2/3 times 6, well, 2 times 6 is 12, divided by 3 became 4. If you don't feel confident about your fraction operations, utilize your calculator for that computation. So that's where this 2/3 x plus 4 came from. Now notice over here, we kind of had an easy step because y minus 0 is just y. So I didn't have to move the number to the other side. My slope is then 2/3, my y-intercept is 4. For number 4, I'm going to start setting up my equation. Now notice I have 2 negative numbers here in my point. So when I had y minus negative 1, well, a minus minus became plus 1, equals your slope, which was negative 3/4, times x minus, but when I had a negative 8, it became plus 8. And then I distribute, so negative 3/4 x. When I distribute here, negative 3 times 8 was negative 24, divided by 4 was negative 6. Then I just brought this side down. Then the opposite of adding 1 was subtracting 1, so I did that from both sides. Over here it cancels. Bring down your y, bring down your negative 3/4 x, and negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. That makes my slope negative 3/4 x and my y-intercept negative 7. Okay, so there is more to point slope form. However, today we're just going to focus on given a point and given your slope. So there are two more examples on this page, number 5 and number 6. We are actually going to start with those problems tomorrow in class. So you guys, if you have taken notes and you've written everything down, then you are finished with your homework, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.